All right, welcome. This is a series of videos that I'm doing looking at the data analysis from NRMP or National Residency Matching Program, NRMP, analyzing the match for US medical residencies for 2022. This is the part six, I believe, and in this part, I will be looking at the survey done with the applicants from the match in 2022. And we will be looking at this document together. This is a publicly available document, nothing that is not discoverable. You can go to an NRMP website and get the document and look at the data yourself. As if you have seen my videos before, you will know that I will look at overall data for the whole match, all specialties combined, and then I will either in the same video or in a separate video, depending on the length of the video, look at the data specific to neurology. So if I don't have time, which is quite likely, then I will be posting a separate video just looking at the applicants from neurology segment who applied for neurology separately in a separate video. All right, let's jump right into it. So this is the results of the 2021 NRMP applicant survey. So this was for 2022 match, and going down, and they will be reporting, of course, all specialties combined, and then they will be dividing specialties, and they have a criteria on which specialties they will give a separate information on, as we will look later in the overview. And as I have highlighted, I will be looking at the neurology applicants data. So they started doing this in 2009, and they've been doing it every other year. And they look at mainly the factors that applicants consider for selecting programs on which to apply, and then ranking those programs after interviewing with them. This survey last year was sent to 42,546 applicants, and the survey is fielded or done during those 11 days when the rank order lists have been certified, the deadline is passed, you cannot make any more changes, and you're waiting for the match to do its magic and give you your results 11 days later. This is the same 11 days when the program directors also receive their survey and they have 11 days to reply. They do not keep the survey open before or after because they do not want the match outcomes or possible match outcomes to impact the survey results. So now you cannot do anything different, and you don't know where you have matched, so you will answer your best, whether you be a program director or applicant. So what does the survey include? It elicits information on a number of applications submitted, so recruitment strategies, interview invitations received, interviews attended, programs ranked in preferred specialty. Then it looks at program characteristics. So what do you look at as an applicant when you are selecting where to apply and then ranking them, such as quality of life and wellness factor, clinical duty requirement and resources, and immigration related benefit like visa status for international medical graduates. Ranking strategies, do you order them in true preference or based on competitiveness of the program, your personal experiences, your perceived likelihood of matching their safety net, and so on? And then finally, communication. Were there any coercive or illegal questioning done by anyone during your interview, defined as coercive or illegal by either federal laws or the match participation agreement? That'll be interesting. I'll be curious to see what exactly happens there. As I've said previously in the video about program director survey, that this year they also altered the survey to add questions related to applicant or program director's experience with virtual recruitment process, and they published them separately. So we will look at a separate video just on that particular topic. And because of that, just like in program director survey, they had to cut down some of the items from previous one so that they can keep the survey short. And because the longer the survey, the less likely someone is to fill it out. So they removed questions related to post-match strategies. If you did not obtain a residency position, will you apply again? Will you do internships, observership? Will you do so? Will you go outside the US, and so on and so forth? Remember, applicants when filling it out do not have an idea if they matched or not. So what happened this time? Out of the 42,000 plus applicants, 21% or 8,895 applicants filled out the survey. This is actually better than program director, which were a smaller group but less response. So as I mentioned in my previous video, 15% or so response rate in a general public open demographic based survey is considered very useful response. So anything above 15% is good, 21% is pretty nice and decent. Although more is better, and this data is useful for future generations. So when you guys receive the survey, take the time out and fill it out. So they have given individual data on 18 specialties where at least 50 respondents were available. And we have discussed this before. This is a standard criteria for all response related or analysis related minimum threshold that is used by the NRMP, probably to avoid any skewed data and also for any concerns of unblinding. And of course, neurology was one of those 18 specialties that I will look at it separately. All right, so let's look at this data, and I'm going to go smaller here so that we can focus on the data itself. So this is the distribution, the response rate by preferred specialty and applicant type. So let's look at USMD seniors, and these are the fourth year medical students in USMD schools. And here the response rate has been divided into specialties. So neurology, 538 surveys were sent, and 120 responded, which is about 22.3% response rate. It's pretty good, better than the overall average. Overall average, as we've mentioned, that 42,000 or so were sent out, but out of those, 19,809 surveys were sent to the USMD senior, and about 21.6 response rate overall. Now, all other applicants, which include international medical graduates and which also include what are called USMD grads, meaning that someone who is late a year in the cycle, who has graduated medical school last year and is not applying while in the medical school, which is the traditional cycle for applying for US medical students. And it's listed down here too: USMD grads, USDO grads, US citizen students, and graduates of international medical school, and non-US citizen students and graduates of international medical school. And then there is some Canadian medical school students and graduates, and then fifth pathway applicants. So here, if we look at neurology, 560 surveys were sent, 25.9 response rate. So you did a better job than USMD senior, which is great. I like it. Participation is good. In total, 15,000 surveys were sent, and about 20.7 response rate, slightly below USMD senior. So that's not good. So if you're not going to neurology, uh, take time to apply and take time to reply to these surveys. All right, summary of results. So this is usually always very interesting on how NRMP themselves look at the outcomes of these survey, and I always read them very interesting. So although there was some variability by applicant type, which is always expected, IMGs versus non-IMGs, MD versus DO, there is some variability with desired geographic location, perceived goodness of fit, quality of residence in the program, and work-life balance, blah, blah, blah. Overall goodness of fit, interview day experience, desired geographic location, and quality of residence in the program were the top four considerations in ranking program of for applicants of all type. So when you have interviewed in a program and you're sitting down to create your rank order list, these four factors seem to be the most important that you would think about when ranking the program. The goodness of it, how well you will be there, how well matched. What was your interview day experience? What desired geographic location you want to go to? And then what quality of residence did you saw in the program when you were interviewing there? So there were also valuable other factors such as program reputation, quality of education curriculum and training, which is close to my heart, faculty and program director, how they came across, and balance between faculty supervision and resident responsibility for patient care. That seems to be other four useful factors when ranking a program. So program reputation, educational curriculum, program director, how he came across, and faculty, and then the balance between supervision and independence of care. Findings indicate that applicants' consideration of different program characteristics likely is based in part on preferred specialty and what applicants may think is important for those specialties. An example, when comparing psychiatry and orthopedic surgery, 78% of USMD seniors who preferred psychiatry reported considering program flexibility to pursue electives and interest in deciding where to apply. Whereas 48% of USMD senior who preferred orthopedic reported considering the same factors. So some subspecialties focus on some factors more than others. And they're giving an example that in psychiatry, 78% of the USMD seniors will like some flexibility to pursue electives and other interests, while only 48% of orthopedic surgery applicants will consider that as an important factor on where to apply. Another example is that 47% of US DO seniors who preferred psychiatry reported considering career paths of recent program graduates. So that seems to be an important one in neurology too. Many programs pay special attention to describing or not describing where their recent graduates have gone or what fellowships they're pursuing or what jobs they have had and things like that. So in orthopedic, CGD seems to be more important as compared to psychiatry. So it's opposite. So flexibility is more important for psychiatry, while the career path of recent graduates seems to be more important for orthopedic surgery. 57% of all other applicants, so that include IMGs, who preferred psychiatry reported considering cultural, racial, ethnic, or gender diversity at the institution. So diversity was important for them, what kind of co-residents they will be working with. And that was not important for the IMGs, all other applicants who were applying for orthopedic surgery. That was not that important for them to get into orthopedics. So interesting. Other highlights, median number of applications submitted by USDO seniors and other applicant types were higher than USMD senior. So that is not too surprising. We have looked at the match data before and we found that overall, if you have interviewed in 6 or 7 programs, the chance of success is over 90%. And then if you have interviewed in 15 or so programs, your chance of success is as close to 100% as possible. And in neurology, same was the case that 7 seemed to be a good number, and 12 or more seems to be the magic number where your chances are maximized for matching. And to get that number of interviews, so you can rank them in any program, if you are a DO senior in a DO school or IMG and previous grad, then you will be applying in many more programs as compared to MD seniors. And we'll look at some of this data hopefully later on. And MD and DO seniors were offered and attended considerably more interviews than other applicant types, regardless of match status. And match status means that whether it's a group match or previously unmatched or and so on and so forth. So the MD and DO seniors are getting a lot more interviews as compared to the international students, international graduates, and definitely both DO and international graduates are applying to a lot more program. Matched US MD and DO seniors obtain similar number of interviews. However, unmatched US MD seniors obtain more interviews than unmatched US DO seniors. Not sure how to interpret that. Not familiar with the DO system here. The largest number of applications were submitted to orthopedic surgery. So these will be the highest competitive one, right? Plastic surgery, ENT, dermatology, and neurological surgery. So all surgical specialties, which pay very well afterwards, were very competitive to get in. And that was very consistent with previous data that we've looked at from match ranking analysis, matching analysis. All right, let's dig into all specialties combined. Total 8,895 responders, what they thought about program ranking, interviewing, applying, and so on and so forth. All right, figure 1. Percent of USMD seniors citing each factor and mean importance rating for each factor in selecting programs for application. So these were 2 separate graphs in previously when we looked at the program director survey, but just because the data is much larger here, they're giving you a more comprehensive view. So I'm gonna, it's a long table, so we might have to break it down to look at it. But let's start from the top and first look at the most significant factors when applying for programs. So this is application. And this is US MD seniors or 4th students. So the top one is the desired geographic location, considered to be valuable by most people, 90%, and high ranked, a 4.5. I think anything above 4 means that they think this is of very considerable value. And goodness of fit seems to be another important one, that they think they will match very well in that program. Although we should define it, and maybe everyone is defining it separately on what they mean by goodness of fit. Reputation of the program, again, is in top 3 factors in terms of application by a MD senior. And then it drops a little from there. These 3 were pretty close, ranked up high in terms of weightage of this factor. And then quality of residence and program seems to be the very next one, and work-life balance seems to be the fifth most important factor. Uh, Pretty close, both of them. And then also close is educational curriculum and training quality, academic medical center program as compared to a community hospital offering residency, and then quality of program director and faculty. So first is the geographic location, the next is their own fit, and then it goes towards things that make a program more important or not. So that will be the reputation, the quality of residence, the education curriculum, academic medical center, quality program director, and faculty. So all of this will be basically how reputable or important and valuable the program is academically. And in between is work-life balance. That seems to be an important factor for residents, for residency applicants when picking a program from USMD school. And now we are down to um, less than two-third of people ranking something as valuable. So of course, this is not considered universally important, but faculty supervision versus independence, career paths of recent graduate, cost of living, size of program, all of these seems to be important. Let's look at weightages and see which of these have a significant weightage. So 4.4 it will be kind of 4 plus will be significant. 4.2 I see here for future fellowship training opportunities at the institution. Of course, if you are an internal candidate for fellowship program, you have a much higher chance of being accepted. So that seems to be very reasonably important by the applicant. So that's pretty good. And this may be the 64% or so applicants who are already thinking about a fellowship. What else is considered important? 4.4 is house staff morale. So when you talk to the house staff and coordinators and admin, you know, how pleasant they are, how relaxed they are, how non-stressed out they are seems to be weighted. And then we are hitting close to 50%. But again, fellowship seems to be important. Pursuing electives and interest seems to be important. And rotation schedules and structure seems to be important. Now, you know what? What um, another thought I have is that this data is very useful to create a checklist of what you should look for in a program. So if you are looking at a program and thinking about applying, and you're not sure how to evaluate a program and how to decide which one to look at, forget about these weightages and number here. Just go down this list and do your own score to it. Give your own score of in terms of what weightage you will give and what how valuable, what percentage you think important. Percent, even forget about percentage, just give it a value or a weightage out of a five, and then just rank it based on the value, and then you know pick the top 10 or 20, and just look at the programs that you want to apply to based on those factors. So this is how overall people think on average what is useful, what most people think is useful. The more blue, the more people think is useful, and the more weightage, more strong is it, the more important it is. And but you are not an average person. You are an individual. You have your own thought and approach. So just go down the list, give it your own score. Forget about this. You can come back to it afterwards and look at it, what other people thought was important, and then re-decide. This is kind of the Delphi analysis. That first you start with your own independent opinion. So just copy this, take a screenshot of the list here, forget the scores, and then just have a way of flipping it around because they're sorted in terms of more people thinking important than less. Try finding a way of not letting that influence your decision or your score. Give your own score and then come back and look at it and see how people thought about it. And that way you can then finalize your top 10 or 20 factors. And there's enough factor to pick here from. I'm just going to quickly read it in case you don't want to go back and look at the document yourself. So going on fellowship, hospital facilities, call schedules, vacation and personal leave policies, diversity of geographic location, gender diversity in the institution, future job opportunities for yourself, conducting research or attending conferences, provisions for health, safety, and wellness, opportunity to perform specific procedures, maybe procedure related specialties, support network in the areas, job opportunities for your spouse, pass rates, board pass rates may be significant, patient caseload, and then quality of ancillary support staff, salary. Not many people are looking at it because it's not too variable, but it could be variable for geographically. Concerns about infectious disease, maybe COVID-related question, community-based setting versus academic, sick and bereavement leave policies coming back over and over again, electronic health record type, ambulatory care facilities, supplemental income, having FEDs in the program, opportunity financial support for the international experience, systematic practice, experience with virtual in-person away audition rotation, union, stipend, school for my children in the area, benefits, other benefits, and visa sponsorship. Of course, visa sponsorship will not be much of an issue for a US MD senior. I'll be surprised if someone is on a visa at UNCMD, but maybe there are a few people are, and they, of course, consider themselves extremely valuable. Maybe their spouses in a couples match. All right, so I don't want to make the video too long, but I'm tempted to tell you my impression of how valuable these things are. And to be honest, this ranking, the wisdom of the crowd, the average, or how many people think are important, is actually quite useful here. And another useful way of sorting this list will be to multiply the percentage of people who thought this is valuable with the weightage they gave it and come up with a total score, weighted percentage score, and then resort it based on that. And I think then it will align with really what I think are important. And often when I think something is important, although not as many people are thinking it's important, but whoever is thinking is giving it a lot of weightage, as I've seen in previous surveys. So in my mind, really, really, really important will be quality of residents in the program. The better peers you work with, the better you get the results. Geographic location to me is not that important. You can always move. Most people do not stay and work where they do their residency. It's different for fellowship, but in residency doesn't matter. I will forget about perceived goodness of the fit. Doesn't matter. If you think there is a good quality education there, you will fit fine. I will not worry about work-life balance. You will not find a huge variation. There may be perceptual differences. So you may see two program and you say, "Oh, this program has a much better work-life balance. This does not." But you have no idea how things will actually be when you go in there. They're usually pretty close, and it's a 3 year, which is a long time, and things can flip. Another resident may get sick, doesn't show up. You get a bad resident in a good program who had a good work-life balance, and now everything is screwed up. Faculty leave, so many crises can happen. So don't worry about it. So far, I will focus a little bit on geographic location, not a whole lot, but really focus on reputation and quality of residence in program. To me, academic is important. So I will prefer academic medical center. To me, quality of program director and faculty is important because those are the ones who will be really teaching you and valuable for your learning. I would not worry about balance of faculty supervision and resident super responsibility. I'll take it out. Not a big deal. Learning can happen in many shapes and form. Career paths of recent program graduate will be very important because um, this tells you that when someone goes through the culture of that program, what ends up happening. If everybody's going into private practice, meaning that they are so affected by the program that they either think it's a great thing to do, just go on and do practice neurology in the community without fellowship, or they just hate their training so much they say, "Well, I'm not going to waste any more time on fellowship," or and things like that. Maybe they don't get enough support, or they're not thought about as a red candidate by the fellowship programs, and so on and so forth. So, career paths of recent program graduates, which ties up with my quality of residents in the program to begin with, and then the quality of program director and faculty. All of these four factors are tied with each other. They really will tell you what is important and what is valuable, these four things. Let me see what else. Future fellowship training opportunities in institutions is really important. So, for example, if you want to do a competitive fellowship like stroke or epilepsy, you have a much better chance of getting it at that program if you were a resident there. So, if you want to do fellowship there in epilepsy, then it's great to do residency there because A, it will be the same epilepsy fellowship faculty that will be teaching you in residency. So you will be much better prepared for the fellowship. And B, you will get either that fellowship or even a better fellowship because the faculty have trained you so well. So that will be very important. I'll forget about this pursuing electives and interests and things like that. There is only limited. The programs are very rigorously monitored by ACGME, so not much scope there to begin with. It's very complicated process, and outside elective, forget about it. There are some programs that will do it, but I'm not sure unless you're doing like an international global neurology for the fellowship in future or something like that. Not worth it. Recreational opportunity in the area, forget it. Residence life, you're hard to find that time, and you just want to spend time with your family. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a Disneyland or something like that for you to spend a quality time with your family. The rotation schedule structure, I wouldn't worry about it. It's something you can influence directly as a resident when you go into the program. Diversity of patient problems, small factor. Yes, you want to learn the wholesome neurology, but something you just never see in 3 years. House staff morale, I think, is important, but that ties in with the quality of residents, career paths of residents, academic medical center, quality of program director and faculty, all ties together. Preparation for fellowship training, again, I will say indirectly, as I said, if there is a future fellowship there that you want to do, then you will be trained for that fellowship much better during your residency. Um, Quality of hospital facilities, I used to give a lot of value to it. I still give decent value because that tells you commitment of the administration on how they spend or invest. Unfortunately, the investment into residency programs comes from the hospital, and if the hospital is not making money, then they cannot invest into the residency program for the future either. And that will just make the experience of working there hard because if the hospital is struggling to make money and they don't have good kind of patients, there's just bad feeling, the morals are down. So it'll be, and that's why community hospital usually don't make as good money as academic, but some academic don't make good money either. So that will be something useful or important to look at indirectly. Call schedule, wouldn't worry about it, pretty standard most places. Leave policies, I wouldn't worry about it, pretty standard in most places. Diversity, it's a personal thing. If you prefer, if you have certain decisions, go for it. I don't. It doesn't matter to me what I'm blind to who's my co-resident, their race, their gender, whatever. They are a co-resident. I need to work. Work comes first and nothing else. Future job opportunity for myself, I wouldn't worry about it. You don't usually stay where you do residency. It's uncommon. It's not rare or impossible, but it's uncommon. It's very specific for very few people. So in general, it doesn't matter. But I know of specific people where it has been an important factor and it's only for those few people. Opportunities to support conduct research. Now, that is important and not. It's important in the sense that if research is where you're trying to get and you want to be able to get a K award or RO1 award or something like that, then you need to get to a really, really good research place where already faculty are very well funded. And they can train you on how to get good grant funding and they can be your sponsors or co-applicants and things like that. If you're not planning to make earning out of research, meaning you're not planning to go for an R01 or K award or something like that, then this doesn't matter. Then you shouldn't even worry too much about it. All programs do some research and that's enough. And you can do research in any program. Safety and wellness, again, I will tie up with the quality of hospital facilities. Those programs that have money to invest, they also will have money to support your wellness and health and safety. If the facilities are crumbling or have not been updated for a while, then they probably don't have money for anything, including your wellness. Opportunity to perform specific procedures, somewhat important, but again, I would tie it to the quality of faculty and opportunities for fellowship. So if you want to do certain epilepsy thing, you want to see water procedure, if you want to do Botox injection with a movement disorder faculty, then if there is fellowship opportunities there, then you for sure gonna get that procedure. Otherwise, it may be hard, but yes, you can look into it. Job opportunities, personal thing, board pass rates. I will tie it up with the quality of program residents. I will tie up with the quality of residents, program director, faculty, future. All of that will reflect in board pass rates. So I will say that one failure in 2 or 3 years of residence is probably acceptable. There's always bad residents or bad situations with good residents, but any failure more than that, I will probably stay away from. And if there's a lot of people failing in that program, so that just speaks poorly of the quality of the residents. Say size of patient caseload, I would not worry about it. Everything is very well regulated these days. Salary is not significant because it's a future salary you should be worried about, not the current salary. And that will depend on where you train and where you end up practicing. As I said, in general, community-based practices don't have that much of money unless some communities do, but usually they're not very well funded. They don't make much revenue. Leave policies are standard, wouldn't worry about it. Electronic health records are standard, wouldn't worry about it. and so on. I think most of these things, other benefits and this and that. Visa may be important. It was for me as an immigrant, as an you know international medical graduate. I was strictly H-1B visa only. I did interview at some J-1 program, but I ranked them lower than my H-1B program. And just so you know, in full disclosure. So I spent a lot of time in this figure one, not only dissecting it for you on how people have replied, and also telling you how the whole list for you to look at, and then giving you my impression of these things. So I hope this was not a big stretch or too much. I might have to break this video into two videos that I've generally avoided, but I think this was a useful discussion to have on how to look at these factors when selecting a program for application. Now, I'll see if there's anything specific for IMG later on. If the list remains the same, then I don't have any different comment. If you're an international medical graduate and not an MD senior, but I think in general, the same rules applies to both, although as I mentioned, visa might be something specific for an international medical graduate. All right, figure two is about USDO seniors, so I will skip that as I've been skipping it in general. And then figure three is all other applicant type, which includes, I think, a big portion of international medical graduate. And now you will start seeing those differences that I was talking about. So the first surprising thing is that almost no factor was cited by more than 64% of responded as being significant. So that's very surprising to me because clearly in USMD seniors, you could see that there were many factors above 64% or 60 something percent cutoff, and very nicely aligned here. While the IMG applicants don't seems to be that clear about factors that are universally important. So maybe this is not the right analysis, but to me, the impression I'm getting is that the applicants are not sure on what are useful things when to look at when applying for programs, and and that may be a lack of information and knowledge. So maybe that's maybe I can spend a little bit more time now on talking about what factors to look at, but maybe we need to do a separate video on this. And maybe this list is not comprehensive. So this may be a weakness of the survey too, that the survey was designed for a USMD senior audience and not specifically for an international medical graduate audience. But let's look at some of this data. So desired geographic location, 61% think it's important. As I mentioned, as a foreign graduate, it was not important for me, but even as a USMD senior, I don't think it's important. You usually do not stay where you do residency, so unless you have a strong reason to be somewhere, this should not be a big factor. Goodness of fit was important for USMD senior. It also seems to be important for international medical graduates and other applicants, and reaching 64%, which might be the highest in the whole list. I don't think there's anything else at 64.3%. So perceived goodness of fit, again, it's a vague thing for me. I'm not sure what that means. If you're a hardworking resident and you match in a program which has quality residents to begin with, that's it. You know what? I'm not sure what fit would mean here. If you're a bad resident, it's a good program, or a good resident, a bad program, that has nothing to do with the fit. It's, you didn't, if you were not good, then that's your fault. If the program was not good, then you couldn't get anything better. Or if you didn't choose anything better, then that was your fault too. So I'm not sure should be given that much of a meaning, but that seems to be the biggest factor for international medical graduates, sadly. Reputation of program, only 59% thought that was important, although they gave it a big weightage. And clearly, weightages are very high, much higher than the MD seniors weightages on these number, although the percentage of them agreeing is small. So it's a strange combination. I need to think more about it. I might make more comments later on. Quality of residence and program, as I said, is one of the single most important factor because that tells you everything about the program. It tells you about the faculty, program director, work-life balance, support from the admin, their career paths, fellowship opportunities, and blah, blah, blah. Everything ties back into this. If you feel the residents over there are well trained, well equipped, very communicative, seems to be on the ball, they think they're doing great in their learning, That's a great program. It will be hard to find something wrong there. And clearly, a lot of you international medical graduates are getting it, but not enough of you. Work-life balance, again, as I said, should not be a big deal. It is very rigorously controlled these days with work hours and things like that. And more, actually, less work is not a good thing either. You have only 3 years to see all the neurology that you need to see. Quality of educational curriculum and training will tie up with quality of residence. Academic programs are not considered very important. Less than 50% of other applicant types, mostly IMGs, thought that this was important. So that's sad. I think academic programs have a lot going for them, and they have more support. They usually have better quality of faculty. They usually have better quality of program director. They usually have better balance, better policies, more rigorous support, and so on and so forth. So I would consider this more important. Again, faculty supervision and resident responsibility, pretty standard in most places. It's just a bad program if this is a problem. Career paths, as I said, is important because it ties into quality of residence. If they're going into fellowship, a lot of them, then that's pretty good. Cost of living shouldn't be a big factor. You're not gonna be there for long. Size of program, I don't think it's a big factor, and I didn't see it in MD Seniors. Future fellowship training opportunities, as I said, is important because that is your easy way into fellowship. You will get trained better. You'll have access to more procedure. You'll have access to better quality of faculty. It takes a very quality faculty to start fellowship programs. So if there is fellowship programs in a place, then extremely valuable. Pursuing electives and interests, again, I'm not big on this. I think there is not much in residency to do anyway, very rigorously controlled. Recreational opportunities in the area, less important for international medical graduates, of course. Again, in first 3 years of residency or four, it's just your family. Just spend quality time with them. Forget about going to Disneyland or something like that. Rotation schedules and structures, diversity of patient problem, none of them is any significant anymore. Let me see if there's anything bad that stand out. Quality of hospital facilities, as I mentioned again, is a very, very important factor. It will have a downstream effect on everything else. If hospital facilities are not good, they don't have money, they're not going to spend money on residents, they're not going to spend money on resident facilities, on faculty, on new hiring, giving them time off to teach you and not have RVU targets and things like that, or workload stress on the faculty. Very important, very important. Call schedule, not important. Leave policies, geographic location diversity, not very important for me. Surprisingly, it's a very important one. Maybe international medical graduates are thinking that if there's a lot of other international medical graduates, then I will feel better there. Maybe that's a personal choice. I think in the end, work matters. If you're the only international medical graduate in a program, and if it's a good program or a great program, you'll do fine. You'll do great. If they hired you, they love you. So there is nothing wrong with that. Future job opportunities, less important. As I said, residency is usually where it's not where you stay. Conducting research, again, not that important, as I said, unless you want to build a research career, which for international medical graduate is very hard, but if you have done work and you think you can do it or it's important for you, go for it. But again, if not, then don't worry about it. As I said, wellness and specific procedures ties into other faculty. Board pass rates considered important by international medical graduate, and as I said, it is important. It speaks to the quality of the residence and the quality of the program and curriculum and teaching and things like that. 1 to 2 failures in board passing in the last 3 years, up to 2 failures, I'll be okay. Anything more than that, that will worry me. That will bother me. Patient caseload, I wouldn't worry about it. Salary, wouldn't worry about it. You guys are right on. Um, Community-based setting seems to be important for some. I don't know if it's in a positive or negative way. As I said, I prefer academic programs. Um, what else? Supplemental income opportunity seems to be somewhat important for you guys. Sure. Having friends at the program, uh, it may or may not help. I've been to a program that I have friends on, and one of the reasons I picked that for my internal medicine prelim. Um, and sometimes I wonder I might have done better in another program. It was a community program. Thank God it was only 1 year, but I could have done better in other programs. What else? So international experiences, no, don't worry about it. It's not valuable in residency. Fellowship is where this will be important. And H-1B visa sponsorship and J-1 visa sponsorship is really important. I'm surprised only 25% and 40% of you are thinking this is important. Although 4.8 and 4.4, good weightage, but this should be, an important question. Maybe rest of you are US citizens and they don't care, and maybe that's fine. So not a concern for you. All right, so now they look at other factors that are important in ranking, and now the question will be, did the thing change? Now, my concern will be that this data might be biased because you are answering this question, um, you're answering same question two ways. Was it important for you for interview selection, and was it important for you for ranking? Now, the problem is that you already ranked. So you would think that the factors that were important for you for ranking are also the one that were important for you for interviews. We have this selection bias for memory. So when we were actually looking for applying, we didn't think about the programs or factors in terms of ranking. But then retrospectively, you will match them. You will say, oh yeah, because it was important for me for ranking, it was important for me for interview. Maybe. Again, here there are some additional questions that were not there in terms of interview selection. Overall goodness of the fit. Again, this is a term that I am struggling with. I'm not sure what exactly that means. If you're a good resident in a good program, that's the fit. If you're a bad resident in a good program, uh, doesn't matter, your fault. If you're in a good resident in a bad program, you couldn't get anything better, or you didn't select them right. So again, your fault. So I'm not sure. The goodness or badness of the program matters more than goodness of fit. Um, you shouldn't think, oh, I'm not that good of a resident, so I should go to an average program or a bad program. No, try to get the best program you can get, or get the best program, apply, rank it high, and then let things take care of itself. Interview day experience seems to be very important. We looked at that in the summary of this survey. They said that the top four factors that were important for the applicants to rank were included the interview day experience. So that is important. Geographic location, again, for USMD senior, that is important. They usually stay close to their medical school or family and things like that. So sure, I'm an international medical graduate, so I don't understand it the way you guys do. Quality of residence in the program, thank God, is in the top four. So that to me is the single most important factor for interviewing in any place. But especially for ranking, because before applying, you may not have access to this information, quality of residence in that program, right? Most programs don't have good websites, or you can't tell by looking at the website if they have good residence. But when you interview there, now you can really hone on into this, and that this should become an important thing for you to rank the program. Reputation of program and quality of program director, I will tie it with the quality of residence as the same single kind of a uniform theme. Work-life balance, I wouldn't worry about it. Quality of faculty is again tied up with the other things that I mentioned. Quality of education, curriculum, and training will tie into that, and board pass rate, all of that. Academics are usually better, and career paths of the recent graduates. All of this tie into the quality of education in a program or training of residents and quality of residents they have. Most residents being matched are pretty good, right? So it's yes, there is some differences between two people who have matched in same program or in two different program, but not a whole lot. You have your select few who studied enough to be able to apply for a medical school. You were select few who got into medical school. Now you're select few who are in a residency program. So you're already pretty good. And the differences between it's like difference between 99.2 and 99.7. Yes, there is a zero point 0.5 difference. And if you forget the 99, it may look big, but don't forget the 99, that you are now really talking about fractions of a difference between two people. So when you see a resident and you say, oh, it's a good resident, or you see a resident, you say it's a bad resident, often the big factor between the two is not them, it's the program. And that's why I keep stressing on this point. A good program creates good residents. A great program creates great residents. And a bad program creates bad residents. with exceptions. There's always exceptions, and I'm not talking about exceptions. I'm talking about general field, general sense. Remember, when you go and interview, they're gonna give you the best residents they have. They're not gonna get the problem child and say, "Hey, why don't you go and show the applicants around?" No, they're gonna try to get the best one, and usually it's the chief resident or associate chief or academic chief and things like that. So they're the best people they have. And if you're not impressed by the best people or you're worried about the best people, I would worry about the program. Um, and so on and so forth. Seems to be the same factors that we looked at before. So I think we have already spent enough time discussing all of it. Board pass rate is too low down here. It should be high up. If they cannot train their residents to pass the board, there is a problem. Patient caseload, I wouldn't worry about it. Actually, too low of a caseload might be an issue, and that's why they be failing. And so on and so forth. And again, visas is not a big issue for you and other things. So pretty good. And same thing, skipping DO seniors, I will look at the ranking factors by international medical graduate. And again, interview day experience seems to win the day here, along with the overall goodness of the fit. And surprisingly, desired geographic location now becomes important in ranking. 50% of people thought it was important for ranking, and pretty important. So 4.5 of a weightage. And thank God, quality of residence program is in top four, so this is important. Geographic location is a personal thing. Remember, unless you have a big reason to stay somewhere for residency, don't worry about it. You know, it's only 3 years or 4 years. Time will fly, and you are unlikely to stay and work where you did your residency, or less likely, I should say, not unlikely. Reputation of program is important. Quality of program director is important. Quality of faculty is important. Educational curriculum and training is important. And morale, household morale is important, as I said, and facilities is important, as I said. Size of program is not that important, and future fellowship training opportunities. So same thing. I think you're looking at the same factors very nicely. Weightages are very high, but seems like less and less of you are concerned about this. Board pass rate should not be down here. It should be an important factor. Salary should not be much important. And clearly, H-1B is important for some of you in J-1 visa, but not a lot, and you're not taking that as a main factor in terms of deciding on the ranking list. It's good. All right, I think we will stop here and take a break from this video, and we'll continue the discussion on the outcomes of the survey from the applicants in the next video. And because the document is still pretty long, so let's stop here.